Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for first of all attending a meeting on Sunday. I'm impressed by that commitment just alone. Now, what I'm going to give you today, this is actually part of a much larger workshop that I do. But what I'm going to do is familiarize you with principles that are being studied today in universities across the country. That there actually is a process for creativity. It's not something that just happens. How many times have you sat in front of your computer screen or a piece of paper and looked at that blank and wondered, what am I going to write? Right? Well, there's a way. There's a way where you don't have to wait for the inspiration. Now, first of all, let me just ask everybody, how many of you think you are creative? Raise your hand. Yeah, how many of you think you are creative?
Not much.
How many of you think you aren't creative? Okay, well, those of you who don't think you're creative, I'm going to show you that you really are. You just don't know it. Okay, so as we move forward here, there is a study that Adobe software did, and you're all familiar with Photoshop and all that. That's all Adobe. And what they did is they went around the globe and they asked people various questions about creativity, because that's what their software does, is help you be creative. And what they found was that 8 in 10 people feel that unlocking creativity is critical to economic growth. So this isn't just what you do for your hobby. This is actual economic power, creativity. Only 1 in 4 people believe they are living up to their own creative potential. That's what people feel. In the workplace, 75% of respondents said they're under growing pressure to be productive rather than creative. So we want to turn everybody into machines, right? Yeah, don't think, just do. And you see that a lot, particularly in the emerging world, where, and just as a side note, I've been to the Philippines many times. My wife is Filipino, and I have never seen so much creativity as I see driving from Manila to Baguio. I'm not kidding. Or down to Tagaytay. There is creativity everywhere. But are most of those people allowed to be creative at work? Right? The same thing here. One of the most pervasive myths of creativity is that only a few people are really creative. It's not true. Let me ask you, have you ever had an appointment that you had to drive to, and you got into a traffic jam, and you figured out a different way to get there? You just got creative. All right? That. And so, let me go around the table and ask you, how would you describe creativity in one word or 2 words? What is creativity to you?
Solution.
Yes. Flexibility. Any more?
Creating something.
Creating something, yes. Actually, all of that is absolutely correct, and I would go along with probably the most universal description of creativity is problem solving. That's what we do. We create things to solve a problem, right? Okay, so keeping that in mind, if you've ever solved a problem, you've got creative.
If you create the problem, you're also creating.
You can create the problem and then solve it. Now you're double creative. All right. Okay, so the gentleman who sort of created this whole area of study, in fact, universities are now creating a whole departments for it is a Mr. Michael Curtin. And he has modeled how creativity works. They went back and looked at fabulously creative people and looked at how they achieve their creativity. Now, these people didn't know they were following a process, but we can look back at them and see, well, they actually work. So here's what we find. There are two types of creative people. You probably fall into one of these types. There's the innovators. There we go. Great. Now they are focused on novelty. They approach from unexpected angles. They will look at a problem from all kinds of different ways. They challenge assumptions. They are irreverent towards consensual views, which makes them often very unpopular people. Right? They are paradigm breaking, and they sponsor radical change. They are what we might call revolutionary in their approach. Now, we hear about all the successful ones. What we don't hear about are the other 99 out of 100 that are not successful. But we do hear about that 1 in 100 that has a really big breakthrough that is adopted. Those are the innovators. But there's another type. And I think most people fall into this category. I know I do. It's up to you to decide which one you are. But there's the adapters. And those people have the following characteristics. They're focused on detail. They're precise. They're reliable. They're predictable. And they find new ways to improve traditional ways of working. They are not revolutionary, they are evolutionary. They don't think outside the box, they build a better box. That's what they do. And if you don't think that's important, let me ask you, would you rather fly across the Pacific in a World War I biplane or a Boeing 787? Same technology, right? But it's been adapted over 100 years into something else entirely. And just to underline that, today, October 18th, 1954, the first transistor radio hit the market. Now, the transistor had been around since 1947 and had been used primarily for military purposes. But Texas Instruments got the idea they want to put out a transistor radio, something that was mobile, because up to that point, the radio was a very large thing. It sat in the living room, it was stationary, kind of like your TV is now. Of course, we've solved that with the smartphones, haven't we? But that was their idea. And then they put it out on this day in 1954, and it was a huge success immediately. Then there was this little company in Tokyo, whose name I can't pronounce, but they decided they wanted to do transistor radios also. And they wanted to come up with a name that Americans could actually pronounce. Yes, and that was called Sony. And what that did, in fact, Sony in particular made them really small and really inexpensive so teenagers could afford them, which meant they could listen to their music out of their parents' earshot, which actually fueled the explosive growth of rock and roll and pop culture as we know it. It changed the world's culture. And of course, we know that the transistor went on and morphed into computer chips and smartphones and everything that we kind of take for granted today. All of that is evolutionary. Adapters. So if you are an adapter, you're very important. Don't discount that. It's still creativity. Now, once we understand which one we are, there's something very important that we can do. And that is that we can move creative thinking from the random. In other words, sitting around waiting for God to inspire us, to an actual deliberate act. We can actually be creative on purpose. And that's much, much better than sitting around waiting for it. The most basic process that most people follow when they are creative, there is what's called divergent and convergent thinking. All right? Don't let those words throw you off. It's actually, the concept is very, very, very simple. Here's how it works. Divergent thinking, that's that looking at the problem from completely different angles. And so if you've ever been part of a mastermind group where you just sit around and throw ideas out there, you're doing divergent thinking. It's exactly what you're doing. So you defer judgment, you suspend evaluation. There is no such thing as a bad idea. And let me show you something, just real quickly here. Can I have 2 or 3 of you come up here? Just come right here. Come on up. I'm going to show you, I'm going to demonstrate to you how we kill this thinking all the time. Come on up. All right. Here's what we're going to do. All right? One more. Well, yeah. One more.
Come on, Becky.
The three birthday
Kids. Go on. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to plan a Halloween party. Only here's the thing. You're going to start. You're going to make the first suggestion. And after he does that, everything you say, and we'll just go down the line and around it again. Every sentence you say has to start with the words, yes, but. Okay?
Okay.
All right, have you got that? So you make your first suggestion.
pumpkin.
Well, no, make a suggestion. What do you want to do with the pumpkin?
Yes. We go take a trip during Halloween.
Fine.
Yes, but there are so many things that we have to watch out now.
Okay, and now you?
Yes, but possibility is that everybody would like to join the
Okay.
neighborhood.
Okay, and now you start with the yes button?
But that's expected of us as long as you are in America.
Yes, but I think that we can do, rather than going house to house, we can do what the schools are doing now in the parking lot.
Okay, and one more for you?
Yes, but there's also the possibility of going to the mall.
Okay.
and
All right.
Yeah, for-
Now, we'll stop right there. Is this party ever going to get planned? No, in fact, if we go on longer, they're probably going to get into a fight. Right? And do we not do this to ourselves? I mean, don't we do that? Don't we come up with an idea and when we think of what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try it again. We're going to plan a Halloween party. We'll start again with you just the same way, and what we do is now you start every sentence with yes and. All right? Go ahead.
Okay, Halloween is coming up. We should party and go trick or treat.
Yes, and that is so exciting.
Yes, and we can buy costumes for kids.
Yes, but I would
Yes,
rather.
and yes,
Yes,
More possibilities.
and we're gonna invite the kids.
yes, and we will buy lots of candies.
Yes, and there are sales in the mall.
Okay, there we go. This party is not only going to get planned, you're probably going to save money going to the sales in the mall. So thank you very, very much. Sit down.
That's a good idea.
Yes. Now, look, this is a very simple, easy change in attitude and mindset. Yet it's hard to do, as we saw on the second go around. You have to get the yes but attitude out of your thinking and get into yes and. There's plenty of people out there to shoot your creativity down. You don't have to do it to yourself. People will do it for you. So keep that positive yes and attitude going. All right, so we defer judgment and suspend evaluation. You go for quantity, having more choices. It's much more powerful than only having a single choice, right? And you make connections between all the ideas that you have. If you start making connections between them, you start getting a much bigger picture of what's going on, and seek novelty. One of the things I hear all the time in service organizations, in businesses, in families, is we've always done it this way. I can't think of a better reason to do it differently. If we've always done it that way, then we haven't been thinking. All right, this is a little test. Let me ask you. This is a man holding a block of wood. If he drops it, or lets go of it, what will happen? Go around. It could land on his foot. Yeah, right. Oh, okay. Here's the answer. The answer is it depends on where he is. Right? If he's standing on land, yes, he lets go of it, it will fall. If he's in the ocean, it's wood. It'll float. It'll rise. Right? And if he's in outer space, it'll go nowhere. Right. Now, this, believe it or not, this is a little test that the University of Udine in Italy uses in their engineering department, just to see if their students can think differently and see things just from a different perspective. So that's the divergent thinking. That's where we're looking at all the different angles and collecting ideas. Now there's convergent thinking. And that's where we go through everything that we've picked up, everything that we thought of, and start analyzing it and making the connections and drawing the lines between the dots. So, here's how that works. You avoid critical thinking. Our first instinct, stop me if I'm wrong, but our first instinct always is what's wrong with the idea, not what's right with the idea. The yes but rather than the yes and. That's always our first instinct. What we want you to do is to think about what's right. Yeah, something may be wrong, but what's right? And if there's another idea over here and there's something right with that idea, maybe the two together can create something. Creativity, you all know Dilbert, the cartoon strip? Well, Scott Adams said creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which ones to keep. That sometimes the mistakes are the best thing, are the best part. And we had lots of examples of that in our economy. I mean, post-it notes. You could go through a number. Penicillin was a mistake. We make mistakes all the time, but some of them are brilliant and life-saving. Right, so here's a conventional meeting. This is what happens in business or organizations all the time. You suggest an idea. You evaluate the idea. Now you have two choices. You can reject it, or you can accept it, and if you accept it, implement it. Is that not how decision-making pretty much works? Yes. How limiting is this? An idea got evaluated and either rejected or accepted. Well, here's a more creative approach, and it's a subtle difference, but it makes a big difference on your results. A good brainstorming meeting, ideas are suggested. The ideas are recorded somewhere. You stop when you have enough. How much is enough? Who knows? But just collect as many as you can. And then you converge. You find out what's right about each idea and see how you can use it. I'm going to give you an actual real-life example. Pacific Power. They're up in the northwest, the Washington state area. They had a problem. Ice forms on power lines after spring and autumn storms, right? The rain comes down, it freezes. So linemen then have to climb up the poles and knock the ice off. Well, the problem with that is it's labor intensive. All the linemen are running up poles and breaking ice, and it's dangerous. and they wanted to find a better way. So they had a company meeting. They drew people from all throughout not just linemen, but secretaries, executives, people in the mail room. They brought all kinds of people together, and they had a brainstorming session. They went for about an hour, and then they took a break. During the break, the person running the brainstorming meeting heard one of the linemen telling a story about one time he climbed up a pole and a bear started climbing up after him. And it was a very funny story. And he thought, great, when we come back, I'll have him tell that story. It'll lighten the mood. So he did. He had the lineman tell the bear story. Well, then people began joking around. And somebody said, well, why don't we teach bears to climb the poles? Aha, yes, laugh. And then someone else added, well, how do we get them to climb up there? What's in it for them? They said, well, let's put a honey pot on top of the poles. Right? And then somebody said, oh, no, come on. Then the linemen are climbing up the poles again, and we've got nowhere, right? We got to get the honey pots up there somewhere. So someone said, hey, you guys with the helicopters, you can just fly your helicopters, drop the honey pot on top of the pole. Then we don't have to send linemen up there. And again, laughter and jokes. And then all of a sudden, here's when it happened. There was a secretary in the group. She was with a MASH unit in Vietnam. And she remembered how when the helicopters were bringing in the wounded soldiers, that thump, 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 that downdraft from the helicopter blades. She said, could we fly the helicopters real low over the lines and have that downdraft knock the ice off? So her suggestion was use the helicopters. They thought about it, and you know what? That's exactly what they did for years.
Wow.
That's how they got the ice off of the power lines. And it all came out of brainstorming, people making jokes, right? But they didn't throw anything out. They were having fun. It was a very positive atmosphere, and they got the solution right there.
I have a better solution than that.
What's that?
Build them underground. No
There you go. Build them underground. This was actually back in the late 60s, and they have many better ways to do it now. But it just shows you what can happen if the meeting's done correctly. So what I want you to think of is that the creativity is a great sandbox. That's where you can play, where you can discover, and be safe. But the problem is, it's a state of mind created by environment and nurtured by discipline. That's important. Most companies don't give you that in an environment. Most, even service organizations, sadly, don't give you that environment. So here's a suggestion I have. You all know Toastmasters, right? Because they're frank and selling. This is the world's best sandbox. I'm not kidding. Seriously. If you want a place with an environment that is supportive and positive, they will give you the feedback that you need, which you have to be evaluated, but it's a supportive, positive. You have the discipline of the Toastmaster meeting. It is structured, and you have opportunities to lead. Seriously, it's my best suggestion to anybody, anywhere, if you're looking for a place where you can really work on your creativity, believe it or not, that's it. And it's a very simple and very inexpensive answer to it, the ultimate sandbox. Now, here, I'm going to show you something.
Stoffel soon devised a plan for opening up the gate, which has got 2 bolts. He would get the female to go up.
Alright. What I'm going to show you this now is creativity in action. I'm going to end with this, but I want you to see creativity in action, alright? And it goes to show you don't have to be
She would go
a
up,
brainiac.
open the first gate. He'd hold the gate and say, woman, get up. I'm fully open, you open up. She goes up to the top, she pulls the second one out. and then he pulls it open. He waits for her to get down, and they escape together.
The escape was no fluke. Considering their small size, honey badgers have remarkably big brains.
The intelligence is just beyond anything.
Whatever Brian did to keep him in, Stoffel was hell-bent on getting out. In the end, and at great expense, Brian had no choice but to build his own Badger Alcatraz.
I said, Stoffel, the days of your escape are over, baby. That night, they called me Brian Stoffel's out. I said, it's impossible. But we had trees in here. And he climbed up the trees, and as I leaned over onto the wall, he was out. So we cut all the branches out of the trees in here and left the trees in the middle. Then he dug up the rocks and he rolled them with his back feet to the wall until he piled it up high enough. And then he'd get up. So he took all the rocks away. This was like a game for Stoffel. Every time I devised some plan, it was like a game for him to work out how could he get over this. 1 o'clock in the morning, my wife wakes up, Brian, someone's in the house. She said, I heard a window break. So the trees. Oh my, expecting burglars. He asked Stoffel at my bedroom door, trying to get to the bedroom door. He made himself a mud wall, and he wants it to make it bigger. And he rolled it, and he stands up, and he just got up like that. People have said, oh, did you train? I said, train it? Not at all. Didn't even think of it. He outwitted us each time with his schemes. I remember one day he left the rake, then Stoffel's enclosure. He scratched himself lying inside there, he's thinking. Computer's working. Take the rake, put it back, put it against the wall. Climb out, off you go. Stoffel! I mean, you won't believe these stories.
All right, so my thanks to BBC Two for that one. But the point of that is he a problem solver?
Yes.
And if he's a problem solver, is he creative?
Yes.
So all of you who thought you aren't creative, could you at least admit you're as creative as a badger? Okay? All right. Creativity is not a gift. Creativity is a skill. It can be developed. You can actually work on it. I'll give you one more example, real life example of the convergent, first of all, divergent and convergent thinking. You all remember Bob Hope, right? Okay, here's how Bob Hope worked. He had a staff of writers. What they would do is hand him a stack of jokes, hundreds at a time. He would go through them, and if the first time he went through, if it made him laugh, he would put a little X there. In fact, he called this the double cross and circle group. But he would put a little X there. And then he would go through them again, but this time only read the ones that had an X. If they made him laugh again, he'd put another X there. Okay? Then he'd go through a third time. If it made him laugh the third time, he circled it, and that's what he used. This kept him in business for how many years was he on stage? 60, 70 years? This is how he worked. It's classic divergent thinking. The writers are doing the divergent thinking. He's doing the convergent thinking with his X's and circles. That's exactly how it works. It's so simple, and yet most people don't know it. and don't use it. Now you do, and you can. So what I want you to do is when you go to work, get in your sandbox. All right? I want you to get in there. I want you to feel that sand in between your toes. I want you to just really enjoy that sandbox. Roll up your sleeves, get to work, and then go forth and be creative. Right?